I'm picking up all of these peas in a pot. I'm a poet, you know it, I can't ever stop. My pitch a cappella, no beat hit a drop. Became unemployed to come out the box. Mine like a dolphin, my tongue like a fox. I'm keeping it cool, Kalila with locks. If you making history, come work with me. Building community like open heart surgery. Breathe, 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 breathe. We take anesthesia to just numb the pain. Cut it wide open, repair from the frame. The roots from the shot, the system's the same. We can't let us die a slow death in vain. What is your legacy? Listen to let us see everything changes. How do you want to lead? In muddy waters for a long time, working toward my own self-healing and our collective liberation. I've been waiting for my body to readjust from a state of submission. These last several years never got my permission, my consent to breathe. It was simply on autopilot, flying under the radar because it was convinced that moving undetected was what it had to do to be free. I've been waving, but not for the picture they got me posing. Y'all say that I'm still chosen, yet they bow and shooting arrows like I'm the bullseye. But yet we in the city with Benny, he got the bullseye. But what you don't see that you get is from my third eye. Cause I walk by faith in the sight of my sixth chakra. The vibration of my intuition does more dance than a TikToker singing Princess Purple Rain in the purple rain of my body's aura. My heart the love symbol of things that bring me joy. Come in peace. Tell me, how much time do you spend working on your energy? What do you do to center yourself and stay working on your purpose? To quiet your mind and stay grounded in Earth's surface. How you turning your body into a vessel of service and showing gratitude for every life lesson emerging. Who are you looking to for guidance before you jump to conclusions? Mama Hurston had the nerve to walk her own way and search for reality rather than climbing up a rattling wagon of wishful illusions. How heavy are the shoulders of the ancestors on which you laugh? Papa Baldwin taught us that ignorance allied with power is the most ferocious enemy justice can have. What you doing to sharpen the iron that strengthens your mind's needs? Auntie Morrison said that we can do some rather extraordinary things if that's what we really believe. What are you creating with your heart, head, hands, and your feet? What are you sharing that can be gifted to the art of your beat? Uncle Baraka says warriors are poets and poems and all the loveliness here in the world. I bet he's proud of the movement forged from the art of our little BIPOC pearls. He says that art is a weapon in the struggle of our ideas. He says art is whatever makes you proud to be human, my dear. And so we still fight with every tool we have to get free as we meddle through the messiness of the things that bind us, as we work to stop throwing stones from the glass houses that blind us. We are all waiting. Wade in the water. I've been reading all about love, but it feels like there aren't enough hooks for the bells and whistles that blow within me. Wade in the water, children. Wade in the water. Like fire, like air, like earth, like water. For chocolate, bodies cocooning for respite. My girl Ife says the sound of liberation isn't sirens. She asks, what does liberation sound and taste like to you? God's gonna trouble the water. Close your eyes, take a deep breath. Imagine the greatest feeling you've ever felt, the greatest food you've ever tasted, the greatest scent you've ever smelt, the most pleasant sound you've ever heard, the safest touch you've ever experienced, the first moment you realized that love was a verb. Yes, bottle that euphoria, flex it into the memory of your muscles and seal it with rest. You'll need it for your journey as you continue to be put to the test while you wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. He's gonna trouble. God's gonna trouble the water. He's gonna trouble. I had a very particular vision for a lot of the tracks, but especially for this one. I wanted you to feel the gospel that I feel like I feel and connect to in my own life. I wanted the Negro spiritual element to be a part of it, this hymnal element. I wanted it to feel like our ancestors were calling us from the graves. And connecting to us, so pulling on our heartstrings in that particular way. I wanted people to sit and to reflect on our experiences, but also our liberation and what it means to be free in our own right. I wanted people to sit and think about our birthright, and what that freedom means in the context of today. So I wanted every last instrument to pull out of that.
Hearing it now, I like how your voice feels like a guide to whoever's listening to the song, and it's your expression about freedom, and you're like, what do you smell? What do you hear? Because like if you don't hearing like just the waiting and the sound by itself, it can be, to someone who's not familiar with that as the depiction of freedom that you're trying to point out, it can feel overwhelming, but you have that soft, soothing voice that's like, I'm here to help you out. We're going to work through this together. We're going to use our ancestors. Come on this journey with me. So I really like that, and it's given me some ideas that we can make this visual.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yes.
Well, I'm Sam, and absent of the words, if you just played, like even just playing the instruments and just the way the music rolled. I'm African, and I could think of like all these other languages that could have been put in that song, and it just flows. It didn't need the words to spell freedom or to spell liberation or to spell something bigger than the song. It's just it was a big song. It just comes out even without the words.
Yeah. And I know the first time I let my mom listen to it, she's a harsh critic like myself.
I'll tell my
Okay, girl. Okay, tell your story. Go ahead, mama. I ain't like, don't be telling my story. I tell my story. That's where I get it from her.
When I first heard it, I cried. I cried, and because it took me back to a place, because I sang in the choir when I was young, in the church, in a choir, but it touched me. But it was like what I heard was like the word freedom. It was like free. It just made me feel free. It was like it spoke to me because I heard like purpose. There was a purpose there. I can't tell you what. Like when other people are hearing it, it's like you put something together. Someone else hears it and they are willing, like Trent just said, we can do something visual with this. Sam said we can do languages. So it's reaching other people. It's a purpose there, a ministry. So and I think that's what because I cried, it was like something that was bigger than, what I was hearing. Yeah.
It's interesting that this track comes after the last track, very similar in water, but water being used in different ways. Like the first one was kind of like, the way that you described it was more of a floating on top of the water. And this second one was kind of like you're waiting, but It's interesting because it reminded me of like your like evolution journey. That's what I was hearing, especially starting off with like mud, and how like sometimes that journey could start in like a dark place, right? But you wait, and you know, in that waiting, it's interesting to hear that you stripped down that track, because I also heard the same strippedness, as far as kind of like when you're in those spaces, sometimes you have to strip yourself down to get to like the core of like who you are, and then start to rebuild it from there. So it's interesting to hear that you did that with the track, because I could just hear that in the journey as well.
It reminded me a lot of just like resilience and like the collective feeling of Black women in this political sphere, because like that's where my mind goes. And I think there were so many conversations being had behind the scenes as soon as like Kamala got elevated to where she was in order to do it, and a lot of us were just constantly talking to each other like, girl, it's okay, like, you know, like we gon', you know, and like just to get through this election cycle, and even as it ended, just to like then keep, you know, packing it up and like being like, we're still gonna try and do this work. And I think like a lot of that reminded me of like that song reminded me just of like that collective feel of like resilience of Black women in politics particularly, and how we were all kind of just like, you know, getting through it, you know, like understanding like the moment, understanding what we were working with, understanding like the country we lived in, and like not trying to go forward and keep pushing, even though like we know, you know, and know collectively what we were working against. And so like it reminded me of that, and it kind of reminded me of like a lot of people have been asking me like, what you gonna do next? And I'm like, I'm not doing politics anymore. But it just like that song, it just felt like my sisters were like, hey girl, like keep pushing. Like that's what I felt when I heard it. Yeah.
Yes. Just want to say that I love the way the song progressed with the lyrics. It felt very immersive. I know it's a word that was thrown around a lot, and I can definitely feel that. My favorite part was when you asked the listener to close their eyes and imagine these different senses. And I just love how, you know, starting off a song for me, the first few seconds could make a big impact on me. That's one of the things that lasts. And I felt very grounded when it started, and then when the drums started coming in, it made me feel very uplifting. And then when it progressed back down to the song in the intro, it made me feel grounded again. And it felt like I went on an experience in those 5 minutes, and I love that a lot.
You know, I think a lot of times people they're listening, but they're hearing, but they're not listening. And so I wanted people to listen, you know. Like, and one of the dropouts is like, but there's not enough bells, there's not enough hooks for the bells and whistles that blow within me, right? And those are deeper metaphors. And I think for people in the room who got that, you gotta hear it like, it's bell hooks, like I'm reading all about love. But there are not enough hooks for the bells and whistles that blow within me, and that's a reference to Bell Hooks' book All About Love, right? And so like you miss it if you're caught up in the musicality of it, right? So I intentionally dropped it on those deeper pieces, like white, like air, like water for chocolate. I'm talking referencing Common and his album, right? Like these pieces that are also connected to our liberation too, but you don't miss it. You miss it if you're too caught up in the music of it. So those intentional dropouts, I just wanted to leave the violins there, because I feel like that I'm really, for folks who know me, I really, really love strings, but I particularly love the violin. And I think it's the instrument that really connects to the heart the most, can connect to the heart the most. So that I wanted to connect from me to your heart chakra, but also wanted you to listen as opposed to just hearing.